Now is the time, Katha Upanishad time. Before we start, a quick recap of what we discussed in our last session. Last session, we saw that Nachiketa is in death's abode, and there he gets 3 boons for the 3 nights that he stays there with no food or water. Out of the 3 boon, in his first boon, he asks for something very physical, a materialistic boon, that when he goes back, his father has to be his anger has to be appeased. So he gets to go back alive. In his second boon, he asked for some subtler reality. He asked for the Vedic ritual on which you get to go to the highest of the heavens or highest dimensions. And in his third boon, he asked for something that is quite spiritual, which is to know the nature of the self. Yama happily grants him his first 2 boons, and for the third boon, Yama says, this is something even the gods find it hard to understand, so why don't you ask for something else? So now in verse 22, we have Nachiketa telling Yama, Nachiketa, O death, even the gods have their doubts about this subject, and you have declared it to be not easy to understand. But another like you cannot be found, and surely no other boon is comparable to this. So Nachiketa is saying, if even gods find it hard to understand, I'll never get a teacher better than you who's going to explain me this. So now Yama is trying to distract Nachiketa with some worldly pleasures. So Yama, ask for sons and grandsons who will live 100 years, relationships, family. Ask for herds of cattle, elephants, and horses, gold and vast land, property, vehicles, and ask to live as long as you desire, health, long life. Or if you think of anything more desirable, ask for that, with wealth and long life as well. Nachiketa, be the ruler of the kingdom, and I will give you the utmost capacity to enjoy the pleasure of life, career growth, position. Ask for beautiful women of loveliness rarely seen on earth, riding in chariots, skilled in music to attend on you, all luxuries. But Nachiketa, don't ask me about the secret of death. So Yama is trying to tempt Nachiketa with some worldly pleasures, for which Nachiketa now replies, Nachiketa, these pleasures last but until tomorrow, and they wear out the vital powers of life. How fleeting is all life on earth. Therefore, keep your horses and chariots, dancing and music for yourself. Never can mortals be made happy by wealth. How can we be desirous of wealth when we see your face and know we cannot live while you are here? This is the boon I choose and ask you for. Having approached an immortal like you, how can I subject to old age and death? Ever try to rejoice in a long life for the sake of the senses, fleeting pleasures? Tell me, O death, of that great hereafter about which a man has his doubts. So Nachiketa says no, and also explains why it is a no. He says, with having known a constraint like time or death, a mortal can never enjoy any of these pleasures that you have mentioned. All of these are very short-lived, so he doesn't give, he doesn't want any of these worldly pleasures that Yama is promising him. So now going to contour 2, let's see if Nachiketa is past Yama's test. Yama. The good is one thing, the pleasant another. Both of these serving after different needs bind a man. It goes well with him who of the two takes the good, but he who chooses the pleasant misses the end. Perennial joy or passing pleasure. This is the choice one is to make always. Those who are wise recognize this, but not the ignorant. The first welcome what leads to abiding joy, though painful at the time, the latter run, goaded by their senses after what seems immediate pleasure. So Yama is saying that we always get to make two choices, one good and the other pleasant, perennial joy and a passing pleasure. A wise man always chooses something that is good, which might be painful in the start, but takes him to the path of joy. But the ignorant one who chooses happiness in the start, it might seem everything pleasant and happy in the start, but on a long run, it doesn't serve much to him. Well, have you renounced these passing pleasures so dear to the senses, Nachiketa, and turned your back on the way of the world that makes mankind forget the goal of life? Far apart are wisdom and ignorance. The first leads one to self-realization. The second makes one more and more alienate from one's real self. I regard you, Nachiketa, as worthy of instruction, for passing pleasures tempt you not at all. So Yama here says that Nachiketa is now worthy of instructions. Why? Because he is not tempted by the passing pleasures and he has chosen good over the pleasant. So from the time we wake up, if we want to wake up, the type of the food we want to have, the way we want to look at relationship, wealth, luxury, we are making choices. And Yama makes quite a strong statement that in order to be able to understand the self, you should be that wise man who's capable to choose the good over the pleasant. The ignorant one who chooses the pleasant is always going away from the self. So let's stop here in Canto 2, verse 4. And next week, let's see if we have all the requirement and if we are ready for the to know the nature of self. Also, when Yama and Nachiketa are here discussing about the pleasant and the good, we often get confused that Yama is expecting us to be ascetic or wants us to renounce the world, but they are discussing about attachment with detachment. So it's natural to have relationships, wealth, property, but holding on to them or chasing after these things is going to take us away from the reality. Relationship or no relationship, wealth or no wealth, this should not make any difference for the type of person we are or the choice we try to make. That's what I think Emma is trying to say. And also I had another insight that when we sit to meditate, of course we have chosen good over the pleasant. And after we sit to meditate, what do? Every time we get a thought, we get a choice to make between coming back to the breath or staying with the thought. So we are actually practicing good over the pleasant. So the number of times we get thoughts, we are training our mind, we are training ourselves to choose the good over the pleasant. These were my thoughts. Now is your time, masters. Feel free to discuss, share your insights, knowledge, and experience. Thanks for the opportunity. Thank you.
Again, for the wonderful wisdom that you have shared. And the conversation which is happening between Nachketa and Yama is also quite interesting. And because death is the highest thing that everyone has to know. And when you are explaining, like also how we have to uh, not think about the self, because we should not become attached to the materialistic things, and explaining all these points are really interesting. And yes, as I always say, what is happening in the next session, what I'm going to learn. So maybe here I should also need to think like, okay, I have to be in the present moment sometimes. Yes, but thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for the wonderful wisdom. Yeah.
Thank you for that very much. Master, share your thoughts. Raise your hands if you have something to share. Thank you, Priyaji. Thank you, Nandini-ji. If we have no sharings, do we have any announcements?
Yes, Indraji.
Your voice is not very clear, Nilima.
No, I said Indraji wants to speak, probably. Yes, please,
Yeah.
Indraji. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you very much. It really sort of touches me, makes me really happy for your thought of us while meditating to get back to the breath from the mind. Is choosing for the good over the pleasant. Yeah, that's right. Easily distracted by the mind is going for the pleasantness and trying to come back to the breath every time we are tempted with pleasantness is to choose the good. That's a very wonderful statement. Thank you very much, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that, Indraji. Thank you, Rashmiji. Do we have any more sharings, Master? Nilima, if we have no sharings, do we have any announcements?
Thank you so much, Raksha. And thank you so much, Masters, for joining this beautiful session. So we'll be posting in the WhatsApp group about the evening session updates. And thank you, everyone, and have a wonderful day. Wonderful day. Yeah. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a miraculous day, Masters. Thank you.